Hello, everyone. Welcome for today's study. All of those who may be coming and join us through our live transmission, and all of those who later on may be in contact. Today, we carry on our program or reflections within Spiritism, Inspiring Lives. And the theme which will be helping us today is the presence of love. And we have the pleasure to have with us our dear friend Anna Sinclair, who already is here. And we start by expressing our gratitude, Anna, to you for your time, for your willingness to be with us, to help us also to expand our ideas and renewing them. And for us to start our meeting, helping us to relax and harmonize ourselves, I would kindly invite everyone to, let's say, for those who want to close your eyes and to start to look within so that we may pay attention to our breathing, observing as we breathe in and breathe out, calming our minds and hearts, connecting with the essence of ourselves as loving beings in essence as we all are, divine creatures in nature. We start this meeting expressing our gratitude for our lives, for our existences, for all the greatest love which is present in our existences in every moment, wherever we are and with who we are, as learners of the greatest love as we all are. And in that way, we start our meeting today. And once more, welcome everyone. And as I start to say previously, Anna Sinclair is our friend and from London, from England, being with us today, and will be presented the theme, The Presence of Love. And in that way, I will hand it over to you, Anna.
Thank you, Vanessa. Welcome, everybody. And I also wanted to thank you, Vanessa, for inviting me for this hour today. I always say the person that is most helped with these talks is the speaker themselves, because you have to stop and think about the subject for a little bit, and that is really useful. So thank you, Vanessa, for inviting me and helping me to think about the presence of love. So I think that I will take the thoughts and the reflection in one perhaps particular direction, but I just want to say that the topic of love is a massive topic. It's very wide, and you might decide to reflect on different aspects of it. But the ones I've chosen today have, in a way, also come to me because I have an interest in reproduction, if you like. I have a background in midwifery and health visiting, so I'm interested in the relationship between mothers and babies and children and families. But I also find that studying, dipping into Spiritism, and say, what do the spirits tell us about these subjects, and bringing them together with what is science telling us, we can go making some interesting reflections that might be helpful for you, for me, for any of us. And the most important thing is, we always say, these reflections are coming from inside us, and our progress is not from one day to the next. Our progress is, if you look at a rose, it comes up as a bud on the rose bush, and it takes the time it takes to develop and open and to release its perfume. You can't force it. If you force it, you break it, if you like. So our development is like that as well. So sometimes we might feel frustrated because, how comes, I've been studying so much, I've been trying so hard to understand things better, and yet I feel I have made no progress. It's because the progress is very gentle, and it is in God's time, which is not necessarily our sort of rushed times of our modern culture. So I reflect always bringing images from nature because it's helpful for me to put things in context. So let us think a little bit about this famous word that is to be found everywhere, which is love, L-O-V-E. So if I say this word, love, what comes to your mind? What images of love are immediately flooding your imagination, your thoughts, your memories? It could be that when I say love, you think of a romantic love. We can think of Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet. We can think of our first love. We can think about a love that didn't work out and then was painful and not very pleasurable. We can think of the love of a mother and child, an image of Madonna and child. We can think of our own mother, our own father, our own grandparents, who might have been loving or not. We might think about the love of siblings, which might have been present or not. We might think of the love of friends, of people who saw us through difficult times and whose love helped us to overcome the darkest nights. We might think of the love we have for our pets, for our dogs, our cats, our budgie, whichever animal you have. These are all facets of love. We can have love for a cause. We can have love in many different aspects. It comes to the conclusion that love is one word, perhaps to explain or to define so many different things. Almost like when you say rain, and rain can be presented in so many different ways. Yes, it's rain, but it could be like pouring, it could be drizzling, it could be blowing in the wind, it could be ice rain, lots of varieties. So we can think that love as well might have lots of different aspects to it. So one of the ways that when we're thinking about love, that the Spirit suggested to me, which was helpful for me, was to imagine like a diamond. I mean, I'm no jeweler, so maybe my imagination of a diamond is not quite right. But imagine something like a diamond that has many faces, and it's when it comes from the earth, it's like a rough stone, and then you slowly go polishing the different faces, and you can have multiple aspects and faces to it that you go polishing. You're not going to polish the whole diamond in one go. You're going to do a little bit at a time. You might do a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. They're all different angles of the same stone, the stone which I would call love. And it has all these different faces, all these different aspects. And it might be that in one life, we are focusing more on one than the other, but we are exposed to different types of love always. But our learning process might be in one particular experience more focused on one side than on another. So quite often people feel frustrated because if they're not having the experience of love that they wanted or how they imagined, and then they distract themselves from the experience of love that they actually are having, because we are all having experiences of love of some type or another. But let's start by just taking, and I've taken this here from the Cambridge Dictionary, available online. What is love? And it gives us here like three sort of main ideas. Number one, it's an intense feeling of deep affection. Number two, a great pleasure and inherent in something. An interest in something. Number three, to like or to enjoy something very much. And then it goes on talking about the intense feeling of deep affection. It's like another adult, it's like being liking another adult very much and being romantically and sexually attracted to them, or strong feelings of liking a friend or person in your family. So we see here that the ideas that come up immediately in our culture are around connection, affection, pleasure, enjoyment, liking. These are kind of key words that come up in regards to love. So just thinking for each one of us now, going back. So when we think of love, what do we think, in each one of us individually? What is our image of love? What do we want from love? What do we think is the role that love plays in our lives? So I will start going on a little bit onto biology. So if I take it from the beginning, so let me just introduce here the Spirits book by Allan Kardec. So this is a book that I have used a lot for my studies. If anybody's interested, it's a book of questions and answers, and it has, let's say, a guide to pretty much everything you might want to know in terms of who we are, why we're here, where are we going, what's happening. But I find the format of questions and answers is a very sort of educational way of presenting it. So I find it quite helpful. So in the Spirits book, they quite early on, they tell us, confirming what a lot of us already perhaps know by intuition, that we are spirits, we are energy, we are intelligent thinking energy that is having an experience on Earth, on this planet, using a physical body, which is this one that you can see here, is my body, and which is the means by which I interact in this planet from my birth to my death. I carry on existing after I die. I existed before I was born, and slowly I go progressing. But for this particular chapter of learning, this experience, I take on this body. And I take on this body from the moment of conception, and I affect the body that is forming in my mother's womb. I connect to it through my spiritual body, which a lot of people call like astral body or energy body, which is something that envelops me normally, which reflects who I am. But as we come into a life in matter, in the material world, we connect molecule to molecule in the body that is forming. So we are affecting that body, and that body is affecting us. So during our incarnation, there is a two-way communication going on between the spirit and the body, and between the body and the spirit. So everything that is happening in the environment where the body finds itself, whether that environment is a physical environment or emotional environment, energetic environment, it's coming back to the spirit. And likewise, the things that the spirit is connected to in the spiritual world is affecting the body. So that there is this interaction. So we come to the world in order to grow, to develop, to interact with one another. And as we come in, we have this forgetfulness of the past, so that we have, like I say, what appears to be a clean sheet, but it's just a temporary clean sheet to be able to fulfill our experience. And we come into a particular family, into a particular situation, into a culture, in a time in which different things are happening in society. And these all form parts of what we will experience, and which we will also impact. Because although we might not be the people who are commanding the country, or being top politicians or top royalty or something like that, we still affect one another. So we affect all those who are around us, and they affect us as well. And this action and reaction upon one another is part of the mechanism that impulses us forwards. So we are all important, each one of us. Even if we don't have an outstanding place in society, we're still important. And we go through life learning and developing. So this view that the spirits bring to us of who we are and why we are here helps us to connect with the importance of this body that we have, this physical body, that is the perfect body for this incarnation. As much as we sometimes complain and we would like our body to be different, the body that we have is the body that we need, and we need to embrace it and work with it. So one of the things that when you think about is nurture nature, there's this big debate about, how babies and children, what makes them be the way they are. When we consider the spiritual element, we know that this is the thinking energy that's coming in, this individuality that has pre-existed, is contributing a large part to this new being that we are seeing in front of us. But their body is also affecting them. So we can't ignore the body. So we're not like being people, sometimes people go either one way or the other, or they become very materialistic and just look at the body, or they become very spiritual and they ignore the body. It's a balance between both of them. And to think about the body and the miracle which it is. I mean, if you look at the biology, you have, the sperm, the egg, they come together, they have an explosion, release light, and they start multiplying 2, 4, 8, 2, and then they form a perfect baby. It's not only it's miraculous, but then this baby that's living in water for 9 months as it develops, when it is born, it goes from living in the water to living in the air and adjusts to that transformation. The baby that is born has never inflated their lungs and filled them with air before. They will do that for a first time when they're born. If you look at these things that people take for granted, they are quite miraculous. But why am I talking about babies? Because one of the things that if you look at science nowadays and even the government policies, the public health, they all take into consideration the importance of love in the development of the brain of babies and small children. And in the past, you might think that this was the idea that love affects the body would have been something romantic, non-scientific. You go back Victorian times or something like that, where they had different ideas. But now with the different ways you can explore, observe the brain with different types of imagery and things like that, they can see that and compare babies and small children that are neglected in one way or another. Their brains are different from the babies that are loved. And the reason that they're different is potentially, and I'm not going to go into all the biology because I'm not super knowledgeable about it either, but it has something to do, like if you're in an environment where there's a lot of stress and a lot of danger and not a lot of nourishment, then everything in the body becomes like tighter packed and it's like reacting to all the dangers that are around. While then if you are being encouraged and nourished and cuddled and loved and stimulated, then the body allows itself to grow and develop more. So it's adjustments to the environment, if you like. Nothing romantic about it, but biology. And they're thinking that we have evolved over how many millions of years. Our body is a very good survival mechanism, has very good survival mechanisms embedded in it. We are successful, we are alive, we are a human species that has populated the globe. So we must be good at reproducing and we must be good at staying alive because there are a lot of us around, many more than there were before. And our biology has something to do with that. But the biology doesn't exist in a vacuum. You're thinking like, if you look at a human body and the way the human body forms and how it develops, you can be moved and thinking, this is a miraculous creation. And then if we think the spirits suggest to us that the creator is God. I know that a lot of people have problems with the word God, so you can use a different word if that suits you. But not thinking about the old man with a white beard sitting on the throne somewhere being angry with everybody, but the force and intelligence that is superior to everything and that has created the laws of the universe, the laws in which everything is contained and in which we are slowly revealing to ourselves, learning about. little by little. So if a baby or a young child does not have love, does not have attention, does not have stimulation, their brains and their bodies will not develop in the same way that that one who does. So we can see immediately there is an impact on that child development. But then also when we think about animals and mammals, and anybody who has, dogs or cats and horses, mammals, of course, we have, as humans, our bodies could be considered a mammal body. It's a very similar kind of physical bodies. They too, when they give birth to their babies, they lick them and look after them and nourish them and feed them until they're ready to feed themselves. This is also an impulse to protect and help develop those babies. Is this love? Could it be called love? Or is this instinct? So maybe the word we will use for it is instinct. It's a maternal instinct that the animals have for their babies to help them to survive, to grow, and to flourish. And as humans, we also have this kind of instinct. It's interesting here in the Spirits book, I think it's question 890. I was looking at that. This is a really interesting question that Kardec asked the spirits, and it's in the chapter regarding the moral laws. And the question is maternal love a virtue, or is it an instinctive sentiment common to both humans and animals? So just what I was kind of talking about. And what the spirits answer is, it's both. Nature has endowed the mother with love towards her children in the interest of their preservation. But in the animal, this love is limited to the offspring's material needs and ceases when it's no longer needed. In humans, this love persists throughout life and consists in a devotedness and self-denial that comprises true virtues. It even survives death itself, accompanying the child from beyond the grave. You can see that this sort of love contains something more than the love displayed in the animal. So there's some food for thought. At the same time, so one of the questions you could ask yourself is, so if the animal has this instinct to look after their babies, to nurture them and feed them, stimulate them, how do they know to do that? And we can say that partially these instincts are moved by hormones. So the hormones, who are the chemical elements in our bodies, they cause behaviors as well. So at the same time that we are motivated by our hormones, we are also motivated by copying what we see that goes before. So we can see that sometimes in animal studies, a little monkey who had let's say a good mother, an experienced mother, when that monkey then goes to have her own baby, she kind of repeats what her mother did. So it's imprinted in her how to look after a baby. And then they say, so if a mother is not a good mother, doesn't know how to look after their baby very well, they will struggle and their baby might die. That line might die out. But it is really interesting to see that in humans, if we go back to our more instinctive phases of evolution, this is how we copied what our ancestors did, and this is how we do things. And until today, many things we just do it because this is how we do it, and we just copy one generation to the next. But so there's a combination of this social element and the hormones. So the hormones, do not ignore them at your peril. If we think of, let's just think at the moment, anybody who has an experience of, let's say, of love, and you gone to, let's say, a bar, restaurant, a party, a reunion somewhere, and you are young and you you look at somebody else and suddenly you feel attracted to that person, and your heart races and your cheeks go pink, and you breathe fast, and you suddenly feel motivated to come closer to that person. It's like there is this rush of hormones who are detaching you from any signs of like danger, don't do this, danger, stranger, all these kind of things. It all goes to the side, and you are attracted, and you overcome your barriers to come close to this person because you have this attraction. This is especially when you're younger, this is something that people experience and find quite exciting. This is a normal human experience. So you have both the hormones kicking in, so saying that those bodies look at each other and they are attracted, but there's also the spirit, because we are not just a body, we are a spirit who is commanding the body. So some people, the body is commanding the spirit more than the spirit is commanding the body, potentially. So it's all a question of our progress as well, our self-knowledge. But if the spirit could be recognizing the other person as someone that they already know and that they feel connected to, they feel affection for, and they're really excited to see them, but their bodies are also reacting. So we're always having this duality going on at the same time. So there is a hormone that is very much involved in connecting people, in helping them to have sex, in helping them to have babies. This hormone is called oxytocin. So I have here a book by a very famous Swedish scientist, Kerstin Morberg, The Oxytocin Factor. So she calls it tapping the hormone of calm, love, and healing. Science. But what is this science telling us? They've done experiments. I find absolutely fascinating with oxytocin, because as a midwife, oxytocin is really important in order to give birth. But it's important in all levels of connection. So it is the hormone of love. And when you take, let's say, if you have oxytocin released, you instinctively trust the other person. It's not a rational thing. It's like an instinct. You trust the other person, and you come close to the person. You need to be able to do that in order to have a connection, like to have sex, for example. But also you need to have oxytocin flowing in order to give birth, in order for you allow the baby to come forth, for your body to contract and bring the baby into the world. It is shown, they did some interesting studies in Sweden with oxytocin, and they used nasal sprays with young people. And if a person had too much oxytocin, they trusted people that they shouldn't trust. So if you have, like, you have somebody's coming up next to you, you have that red flag, and you think, I shouldn't trust this person. I think they're leading me on. If you have too much oxytocin, you don't realize that. But if you don't have enough oxytocin, you don't have empathy for others. You don't feel that connectedness. And it's interesting because oxytocin can be released in the body through many ways. But one of the ways that it's released is by stimulating is when you stroke. So you stroke your child. When, say, you give a cuddle, you stroke them, it releases oxytocin. Oxytocin then makes a connection. So when you embrace somebody and you stroke it, you embrace each other and stroke, you're releasing oxytocin, you make a connection. So you can see how it brings people together, it glues them together in a hormone kind of way. Now, I'm talking a bit about the science, and I'm just in a very superficial way, but this is part of God's creation as well. And this is part of helping us to have the experience of love, even from the beginning of our evolution. So that it's not an intellectual creation, but it is a physical manifestation that all of us on earth have some ways that we will be experiencing the release of oxytocin. And that this hormone that comes out in these small quantities is able to connect us, to make us feel calm and help us to recover. So when we are stressed and we are aggressive and we are angry, those hormones are opposing oxytocin. So you have either one or the other. In the same way, like if you're giving birth, if you have high stress and cortisol, and you have a lot of fear, then the hormones that are running around your body are the opposite of oxytocin. So it's not that fear and anger and aggression don't have their place in survival, they do. But we need to have a balance of being, defending ourselves, going out to protect ourselves or hunt or whatever we need to do, and to be able to come back and rest and recover. So just thinking about how interesting it is, because in the past, people would put like love very much in the field of poetry, art, the romantic, the ideal. But actually, there is a completely sort of material, biological side to it as well. But it's not either one or the other. They're all components of the same diamond, if you like. So when we come on Earth and we are like a fresh start, we will have experiences of love. So in the home, we will have experiences of love. I know that in some homes there is violence and aggression and there is no love. That is a possibility as well, because these are experiences that one might have on Earth. But we don't necessarily have to stay there, and eventually we grow up and we can move elsewhere. We bring with us those difficulties or those unfulfilled relationships, but we can build new relationships and we can change. Even for those babies and small children who had their growth stunted and their brains less developed and different connections made in the brain, that can, although with hard work, eventually be changed. But when it happens at that young age, it's very quick. So thinking about that young age is a very important age. And even if, like, for example, you might not be the mother or the father of a child, but you might be the uncle or the aunt or the cousin, you can make a difference by imprinting love and stimulating that child to trust and to accept love. But some people, they also, sometimes in their lives, they're so disappointed by love and bad experiences and so on, that they then develop their feelings of love towards their animals, towards their pets. And that's okay, because that is also a way of exercising love and care for another. And it might be that if somebody is very wounded, that's all they can do. And we can see that how often animals, they will pick out people who need love as well, and adopt them, come to them. I remember a friend had a cat. Well, she had two cats. And then one of the cats disappeared, and she put up ads all around the neighborhood. Oh, I lost my cat, with photos of the cat, and she was like really upset. And then this old gentleman came to say, look, I'm really sorry, your cat's moved into my house. And she said, oh, what do you mean? He said, well, I've recently lost my wife and I was feeling very sad. And then suddenly this cat appeared and started coming and meowing, and I started feeding it and petting it, and it ended up staying at home. So then my friend said, oh, do you like the cat? And he said, yeah, it's company. And, I'm missing my wife so much. She said, no, if the cat likes you and you like the cat, you can keep the cat. It's okay. I'm happy the cat's found a new home. But it kind of makes you think, how did that cat, wander in there and just go and find a place with this person who was bereaved and needing the comfort of the cat? Who knows? But let's move on a little bit more and go building on this idea. It's interesting because a lot of people talk about how they want to love and they want love, but people disappoint them in love. So the spirits, they explain to us that love could be like compared to like three phases of love. We could have first, like say, the childlike love. And like a child, we want the love for ourselves. It's a selfish love. We want it all for ourselves. And we want to be loved and we want to be looked after. and it's all going inwards towards us. It's a selfish kind of love. Like if you have a small child, a toddler, you kind of understand that level of emotional development. They can only see their own needs. They can't see the needs of others. So it's almost like a greedy love that wants it all for themselves. So although that is representative of a phase of evolution of our bodies during our incarnation, it might be that there are adults who behave in this way. There are adults whose love is still requiring some growth and development. It's still at that childlike level. Then the next level is called like the youth level. And the spiritual evangelist, who is a spirit who writes a lot about psychological issues and emotions, she describes this as insecure love. Like you want to love others, but it's an exchange. If you love me, I love you. If I love you, you need to love me back. It's an exchange. And then you say, oh, I loved him so much, but he didn't return my love. I loved him so much, but he let me down. I loved him so much, but he slammed the door in my face. So we feel this insecurity because we feel we've given something that is our love, and we have been disappointed, or we've received something that was not what we expected, because we expected the same or more, like the child, back, an exchange. But then it says the true love is adult love, which should be like when we are adults, but not necessarily all adults are at that stage, is the love that understands that the pleasure of love is to love, is to give your love. It's not to receive the love of others, but to give the love. And you give freely, and the more you give, the more you have. It's almost like you are immersed in this field of love, and the more you love everything and everybody and you give your love, the more this fountain generates more love in which you are immersed. This is not always an idea of love that many people might have. Many people are on the idea of love of exchange. I give love, you give love. It's a bartering of the love. But the spirits say that actually a more mature type of love that brings you peace is to be able to love, to freely love, saying that the good thing of love is for you to be the person who loves. And that in our society in which we're all trying to accumulate stuff, it goes against the grain, doesn't it? I'm giving. If I give, I will be left without, but it's not the case in love, because it's like, I remember there was a song in primary school about the magic penny. You know, the more you give it, the more you have. So love is like that. The more you give it, the more you have. The more it just flows naturally from you. But perhaps we are still insecure, or perhaps we are still selfish, and we haven't reached that level of love, which is a giving love. And when we can make a connection now to the teachings of Jesus, so we take the teachings of Jesus, so the spirits in the Spirits book, and they suggest that we can use Jesus and his teachings as a model, as a guide of things that we can learn here on earth, that he has brought to teach us. And his biggest teaching was about love. So he talks about love one another as you love yourselves. So it talks about love of others and love of self. Now, I don't know how it is for you. A lot of us in different cultures or in different times, to love oneself was considered to be selfish, because of misunderstanding and the use of words. And in the Spirits book, I love something the Spirits always say. It says, call things whatever you like, as long as you are agreed on what you're talking about. And sometimes our words fail us because they don't explain things exactly. So going back to what Jesus said, to love one another as you love yourself. So what is it to love yourself? Because perhaps we might think it's selfish to love ourselves. If we think about the childlike love we're loving ourselves, we're being selfish. And how can we love ourselves without being selfish? And in order to love others, we need to first love ourselves. So if we go to the adult model of love, is saying it's that something that emanates from us, that we give freely, and we have joy and pleasure in giving this love. And we don't feel a lack, or we don't feel that we are losing out on something, but we are feeling more and more at peace and in happiness, because we live in this fountain of love, which is what we give out. So when it says love yourself, maybe this is what Jesus is talking about. So when we love ourselves, we respect ourselves, we acknowledge that we are using a body that is a blessing, that allows us to have this experience, this incarnation. So we look after our bodies. We don't chastise our bodies. We look after it by feeding it appropriate foods, by giving it enough water, by moving it to keep the joints and the muscles supple and working. We look at it and its needs, and we respond and we provide those needs, because this body is a gift that we have for this life. It is our instrument. It is our means of being here. So it's up to us to love our body. If you think like in the past, I think even middle age and things, people used to chastise themselves and whip themselves because they're trying to control their bodies, because they don't understand their hormones, they don't understand the needs of the bodies. So just thinking we need to move on from there, and just thinking, okay, let me look at my body. What is my body telling me? And what do I, as an eternal spirit temporarily inhabiting this body, what am I learning from this body, and how can I support and nurture my body? How can I love myself here? So the love of self. When I can love myself, when I can accept myself as I am, with my flaws, my shortcomings, my talents, and my yet latent talents, in a well-balanced way, then I can look at my brother or sister, my neighbor, and see that they too, like me, beings going through the process of evolution, doing their best. We are where we are at. The law of progress, the spirits tell us, is inevitable. Everybody will progress. We are all born simple and ignorant, and we all build our destiny by moving forwards and going through all the experiences. But no one is left behind. There is no eternal damnation. Which would make zero sense, because everything in the world is moving dynamically in terms of evolution and being recycled and moved on. So to have something statically thrown into a situation, that absolutely makes no sense. But if we are thinking that we can accept ourselves with our shortcomings, with looking like I am not yet able to love fully as suggested all the time. Sometimes I still behave like a child. I want the things for me. I want the love for me in a selfish way. Sometimes I have insecure love. I want a barter. I'll give you some of my love if you give me some of yours. Because I am not a perfect spirit. I am work in progress, if you like. And so is everybody else here. So if we know that we are all work in progress, we are all going through this process, we can accept and love each other, knowing that we are not perfect, not demanding that others have the perfection that we don't have, but saying that everybody's trying their best. Even when we can't understand or situations are difficult, and I'm not at all minimizing anybody's suffering or tragedies or things they're going through. Not my intention. But it's thinking, how can you love your neighbor? How can you love somebody else if you don't love and accept yourself first? That is what Jesus is telling us. So that the first step in learning to love is with ourselves. Learning about ourselves, learning about our emotions, learning about our body, learning about the society, the culture in which we are immersed, and what is our role, and what can we do to serve others. Because it's by serving others, we go learning to love, and by seeing without judgment, we can always try and see some good in another person. And it's just like it makes it really interesting to be alive, to have these challenges, because there is so much to learn. No matter where you are, what your situation is, there is so much to learn, and we can learn as much as we like. And life is such that we can learn on our own accord, be proactive. And if we don't, then life will take us like a current of water to meet the situations in which we can learn from. Because as I say, progress is inevitable. We're all born simple and ignorant, but our destiny is perfection. And that is really comforting. So thinking about the idea of love and how it is threaded through our lives, we are all here because there was an act of love in which our bodies were conceived and grown and given birth to. We're here, we're talking, we survived our childhood, our youth, whichever age we are at now. We've got this far. We've done well. We can be proud of it. And if we have issues because we feel that we were not loved as we wanted to be loved, sometimes you might want to consider, do you want to do some therapy, some talking therapy, to understand where that sits? Because it's about allowing forgiveness into your life as well. For forgiveness is an expression of love, a love of yourself. So when you forgive somebody else because they did not love you when you were a child and you didn't protect and look after you as they should have, and you hold on to that anger, resentment, whichever feelings you have in regards to that, you're not able to forgive them. You're not able to free yourself from that narrative. But when you forgive, you can free yourself. You are an eternal being. You are a unique creation. You're destined to perfection. When the time is right, you can free yourself from those situations, and you can carry on your story, and you can make a new story going forwards. So thinking, bringing about the idea of love, and I wanted just to refer here. Where's the book here? There is a book by that spirit I mentioned, Joana de Angelis, who is spiritual mentor of a famous medium in Brazil, Divaldo Franco. And she has a book. I mean, it's yet to be translated into English, but it's called Love, Invincible Love. And it talks about love being, I'll just read the beginning here. She goes into it's lots of analysis around love. It says, love is the creative substance that maintains the universe, constituted by the divine essence. It is a treasure that the more you divide it, the more it multiplies, and it always grows as you divide it, as you share it out. And the more you give it, the bigger it gets, and the more it irradiates. So it talks about, it says, just like the air is indispensable for our organic existence, for our physical existence, love is the oxygen for your soul, without which it becomes weak and loses the sense or the meaning of life. So we could say that, what is the meaning of life? What's the reason for my life? It's to learn about love. And that's what Jesus says, you need to learn to love yourself, love your neighbor, and above all, to love God. So again, I bring back this image of God that is not an old man with a white beard on a throne, but it is the force of the universe that has commands the creation, the natural laws, and embedded in these natural laws, even on the physical level, love is all entwined. So if I talked about hormones, and we talk about like our physical body, the physical body of mammals, and how they look after their babies and so on, but also through all the different kingdoms, through the plants, and even to the minerals, love is present. And the spirits would say in the law of attraction, what binds things together, what brings things together is the law of love that is manifesting in all these different ways. So the spirits say almost that love is God's glue. It's the way that God brings things together. So let's think about for ourselves, how do we bring things together? How do we love? How do we overcome our pain, our difficulties, the challenges that have come our way? And how can we find love in our lives? If we don't have the love of a companion, if we don't have the love of a spouse, if we don't have the love of a family, if we don't have the love of our friends, if we don't have the love of a pet, we still have God's love, because God's love is there for everybody. We are all God's creatures and we are all loved. So if we have nobody to love, let us at least love ourselves, which is the source from which everything will then come. When we learn to love ourselves, to accept ourselves, we can start to generate love around. And even if it's planting a few little flowers, or looking after an animal, or even just be moved by the beauty of nature, we start to move that energy, which is this divine energy, which is love, which we're still only at the bottom of Mount Everest in terms of coming to understand it. And that's okay, because we know today a little bit more than we knew 100 years ago. And maybe in 100 years, we'll know a little bit more. And it's just step by step. We don't have all the answers yet. We don't have all the knowledge. But the knowledge that we do have, the information that we do have, can help us to live a more fulfilled, happier, more peaceful, more loving life, no matter what our situation. Love is indeed the food of the soul. And I think I really like that, because it's just like detaching it from this romantic idea of, well, if I'm too old for, Romeo and Juliet, my time is past, No, but love is so much more than that. And this image of this diamond and all the different aspects that need, in order for love to shine completely in us, which is going to take a little while, perhaps for some of us, we need to go polishing the different sides. So let us observe for sure that life has brought us situations in which to experience loving, being loved, and not being afraid to give our love, not being afraid to move this divine energy that is within us, but to start by loving ourselves. What do we need to do to love ourselves, to get to know ourselves? This is a project for each one to pick up and go with, but to saying at the same time that we have this intellectual, philosophical, emotional movement to think about love, life material is pushing us with our hormones and with situations, whether we like it or not. It's just like this torrent of progress is coming our way, whether we are aware of it or not. So it's finding that balance and say, what do we want to do with our lives? We are here today, now. We might be busy having a job, having to pay the bills, having to do this, having to do that. But do we have 5 minutes to stop every day, just to stop and consider, where is life present in my life? Where can I see the presence of love? I can look at this orchid in front of me. Sorry, you can't see it, but I can see the presence of love in this orchid that just brings these flowers together in this most extraordinary way that they look almost artificial, but they're natural. And it's just, what glasses are you wearing? What glasses? How are we perceiving love? Are we moving within the sphere of fear and violence and reaction? Or are we allowing ourselves to experience something a little bit more of the divine that is there everywhere, hidden away in every little corner? We can see something that will wake us up, that could help us to see something. I don't know if you're finding this helpful or not, but in a way, it just helps me to bring together, when I was a child, the teachings of Jesus, love one another, forgive your enemies. It was just completely like, oh, this is all impossible stuff. Why are they teaching us this? But now you can say, well, you do it step by step, and you begin with yourself. And all aspects of love are developing our bigger gem, which is this love with so many different aspects, which is the blessing, and it is the purpose of our lives, to learn about love, how to develop it, how to be part of God's creation by manifesting love ourselves as well. I hope that these thoughts might have been useful for you in some way. If you agree or don't agree, it's all good. These were my reflections. If you want to ask any questions later, you can send a chat to the group, and if Anicia and colleagues can respond. I wish you all a very loving, peaceful day, month, year, eternity. And I'd like just to close this meeting by saying a little prayer, and follow me in your thoughts if you feel like it. As I raise my thoughts to God Almighty, Creator of all things, in whose breath love flows to reach all of us one way or the other. May we awaken to this love. May we find peace and harmony, and that all brothers and sisters on earth may find their way towards love and peace, so we can all learn to live together as one family in one big home, our blue planet, Earth. Thank you, Lord, for all these blessings. And may there be peace and love around us in our homes, wherever we go, in all our countries, in all our spaces. And so be it.
Thank you very much indeed, Annie. It was a pleasure to be with you and following your talk as learners of love, as we all are. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and also saying thank you for all of those who have been joining us, and also those who later on may be in contact with this talk about the presence of love. For now, we say thank you. We wish you much peace to your family, everyone around you, and everyone who is with us here. Either incarnate or disincarnate. Also, as you rightly mentioned, we are all members of the greatest family. So with our hearts full of love, we say thank you, and we hope to have other opportunities in the future. Much peace to you, Anne, and everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.